since we've been talking so much about him, let's consider what's going to happen to Hauser. What are your thoughts on that?
I think as we keep talking about this show keeps adding more and more characters and more plot lines that need to be resolved. I think Hauser seems to directly connect to not only Rampart and his desire to replace the clones with stormtroopers. And I think at this point he kind of sees Crosshair as not a clone. He sees Crosshair as part of his stormtrooper unit or whatever he's trying to create. I think Hauser is probably our segue back into that main story. I could definitely see Hauser transported to Kamino, and they can experiment on him and see like what happened and why are these clones not responding to the control. And I would like to see at least the fallout within the Empire about this, because I would like to see what Rampart, how he talks to the Kaminoans. Maybe Tarkin comes back and is like, what's the deal with this? You promised that these guys were fully under control. This could even reach Palpatine type level, because this is like affecting this whole, really his entire reign of the Empire. If these clones are not going, if this is going to happen where 20 to 30% of the clones on every planet that they're occupying starts going, no, this is wrong, we're not doing this, that's a real
Right.
problem. And
Yeah.
so I think Hauser might be a symbol for something more. And whether it's the Bad Batch or Rex or some random clone, well, the Empire thinks Rex is dead, but these random clones leaving, if Hauser just left with the Bad Batch, I don't think anyone would have cared. But since he stayed and he made a big display in front of all these other clones, I think it's going to be something that it's like the conditioning of the military. You're going to have to try to say, how do we turn this guy into a true criminal instead of like a martyr in front of these other clones? Like how is this guy going to become something other than a symbol for free thought and like free will amongst this army where which is supposed to now be completely mindless drones for the most part and do exactly what we say. So I think that's, to me, that's the most interesting part of where Hauser's story is going to go. And I think that's where it could intersect back with the Bad Batch, because obviously we have that like kind of longing look from Hunter to Hauser as he's about to walk out the door. I think there's more there. Hunter, I mean, he wanted to ask the question that we wanted him to ask, like, how and why are you like this? And we didn't get it there. I think we're going to get it in the future. And I think this is kind of a smart way for them to circle back into Camino. And then now we have Crosshair coming after Omega, or not Omega, but the Bad Batch. We still have the bounty hunters out there. If we have Hauser's story continue on Camino with Rampart and all that stuff, that's where I would really like to see Hauser go. And even if he dies at the end of the season, I think his purpose would be served really well as this first falling domino of like the clones starting to find their place and rediscover who they are amongst the rest of the Imperial kind of propaganda mind control machine.
Right. Um, I think he is going to Camino. I think that is where he's being shipped off to. I don't see him going to quarter trial. I think he is probably told that he's probably going to be court-martialed, and then they're actually diverting him to Camino to have his case. But in the end, they are going to experiment on him. But I think he's, like you said, he's a dominant of sorts. But I think right now on Camino, there's like a very tenuous balance, right? There's the Kaminoans versus the Empire, and then the Kaminoans amongst themselves with Nala Se and the Prime Minister having very different objectives for their relationship with the Empire. So, what the political like game that they're all playing right now, I don't think Hauser just going to be like strapped to a bed and experimented on. I think since he's had a exemplary record, right? I can see him to some degree be able to walk around Camino to, like at least be a presence on Camino. Um, and I think that just seeing a clone be normal, be themselves like they've always been, will not only scare the Empire, but it'll complicate the goal that Nala Se has developed for herself, and the prime minister has developed for the future of the clone army. I mean, if a guy goes around and says the most obvious answers and you know is able to interact possibly with other clones there at the heart of the operation, it's not that he has to send a message to anyone or broadcast anything like Ezra does on Lothal in the end of season 1 of Rebels. This could honestly play out more as like, okay, the clones see him, right, and see what he goes through. They see him be experimented on. They see him just be normal and everything. And then as that happens, right, because they're in Camino, because they're still deployed all around the galaxy, right, that seed of doubt and everything has already been implanted at the source. And then wants to spread out to the Empire, he doesn't have to say a single word. He just has to be there and be able to just move around to some degree on his own on Camino. And I think just seeing a man, right, especially helmet off, that'll change a lot of clones' opinions. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for Howzer to become a Bodhi martyr, despite the Kaminoans and the Empire's wishes to making him seem like a traitor. I think he'll just go down honorably, no matter how he's killed or executed. I think we'll see like the sort of execution that we see in, that we almost see with Fives in the Umbara arc. But I don't think we're actually gonna see a guy escape. I think he'll be shot down, and maybe some of the clones feel such immense guilt. We'll see clones who see that execution. We'll see this man broadcast around to these clones as like, okay, this is what happens if you work against us, right? This is what it means to be a traitor to the Empire. But they'll only see a brother who was just trying to do his best, voice the good word until he dies. And with that, once they get deployed, that's going to just keep spreading more and more. And I think it's going to bring in the clones that we eventually do see in Rebels. I think we're going to see Wolf. I think we're going to see Gregor. I think we'll see. I don't think we'll see a Kaminoan insurgency this season. I think we'll see something change on Camino dynamic wise, but I think the seeds will definitely be spread throughout the galaxy of like, this isn't right. This isn't who we are. I think it's too hard for the Empire to just simply say, okay, we have to get everyone back in and fix their brain chips. That's logistically impossible, right? I think this is just something that they're not going to be able to do, win at, other than bringing scores and scores of human conscripts to just gun down and kill all these clones. And I mean, they're well trained. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to do literally the droid army strategy of volume versus skill. And it's not going to look good for them, but I feel like that's the only way the Empire will ever be able to like put down any sort of resistance if it grows to the levels that we think it might grow. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to really say there. I hope that Howzer is a character that somehow does survive and somehow joins Rex and is part of those rogue clones. But the way the circumstances have played out, he would never do something like that. He's just too honorable. He's just going to die as a clone amongst his brothers, even if they hate him.
I agree. I think he's gonna die in the end of this season, and I think he's just like, look at this shot. He deserves to be like a symbol right now, and I think right now with what the Empire has tried to do on every planet, and we've seen, especially in the last 3 episodes, they're really trying to hammer the point home of this is what an Imperial occupation looks like versus what the Republic occupation looked like, or not really occupation, more like help looked like, versus like
Yeah, yeah,
completely dictatorship. I think with Howzer, sending this message and more clones across the galaxy, and they all, even though these clones are stuck here, the whispers of what Howzer did, for some he'll be you'll have dogma types that are, oh well, he betrayed the Empire, or you have other more idealistic clones. You're like, well, what if what he's saying is true? We're going to start seeing how one person can light that fire, like Poe says, and start a real change. And so I would like to continue to see him survive until around the last episode, get more and more about the politics of stormtroopers and how they are going to accelerate this process, because it's another plot point of this show that we've pretty much kind of ignored since the third episode. And so I think we're going to get back to that. And we said this at the beginning of this whole show, that it was going to start with the main plots, as Clone Wars, or as Rebels especially did. You start with the main plot, you go into a lot of like filler, but like interesting filler that helps flesh out the characters and flesh out where we are in the universe. And then we get back to the actual main plot at the end. And I think the main plot of this show is going to start wrapping up with Stormtroopers, Camino, what's happening there, and Omega. Thanks so much for watching this segment of the Star Wars Lads podcast. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video by clicking the thumbs up button down below, and subscribe to our channel for new Star Wars content every single week. If you want to watch our full discussion, click the video on the left, or if you want to check out one of our other awesome videos, click the video on the right.